Hey, welcome back to Music Theory Logic. My name's Andrew, and today is going to be another music theory breakdown. Let's go ahead into the logic session. So here we are in my recreation of the track of the day. Today we're talking about Stay by the Kid LAROI featuring Justin Bieber. Really like this song. Basically, I've recreated the instrumental from scratch. We're not going to play the original. If you haven't heard it, go check out that original. I don't have the copyright permission, so that's why we don't play the original here. If you find these helpful, you'd help me out a ton by subscribing to the channel. Without further ado, here's my recreation of Stay. I'll filter in the original.
When I'm away from you, I miss your touch. You never let me empty-handed, and you know that I can't live without you. So baby, stay.
Breakdown. Cool. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Once again, go ahead and listen to that original song. I really enjoy it, and hopefully you do too. And hopefully that sounded close enough to the original. Keep watching. So this song is pretty simple, although it has some complexity to it, which is going to be kind of fun to talk about, which is why I'm doing this track. So a lot of charts that you'll see for this song say it's in the key of D flat major. That's definitely our reference main, like home key of the progression. But we don't really ever use a D flat major chord, which leads me to believe that this is going to be in a mode. I'll explain what I mean. So the key of D flat major has D flat, E flat, F, G flat, A flat, B flat, C, and D flat. The relative minor, or the minor scale that has those same notes in it, is built on the 6th scale degree, B flat. That is B flat minor. That sounds like this, with a lot of reverb, which is on that instrument. And I really think it's in neither of those keys. As we're gonna see, the part where Justin Bieber sings over, where I was filtering the vocal back in, that is over in the key of B flat minor. But I think that the main riff, I would describe the main section of the song as F sharp Lydian. Now, these have all the same notes. So one of the interesting things about music theory is that an actual Ionian scale, fancy modal term for a major scale, has 7 other modes, and those modes are basically the same notes, but starting and ending on different notes. So in the context of popular music, you could think of that as like the melody is going to end or use this note the most. That would be a note that's resolved to it. Or you could think about it as like this chord progression starts or ends with the home chord. Would be really, really common. So if we go into the actual main riff or main chord progression that's happening throughout this song, we are basically revolving around this F sharp note. So we do our chord progression based on the F sharp. It's going essentially from the 1 in F sharp up to the 2 in F sharp Lydian, up to the 3 in F sharp Lydian, down to the 7, which is an F natural. We see that right there, or an E sharp, depending upon how we want to talk about this. I should have been calling this G flat Lydian. Now, technically, those are the same exact things. You might be thinking, oh, well, that note, this black key between the white keys F and G, we can refer to as an enharmonic. We can call that note G flat or F sharp, depending upon how we're talking about it. And since I began talking about that as D flat major as opposed to C sharp major, I should be calling this G flat Lydian, just to keep the consistency. So Lydian, the way that it differs from a major scale, its basic reference key is from F to F. It is the same thing as a major scale, only it has a raised 4th scale degree. What that does in this progression is it makes the second chord major. So let's go through each section of the song. The main riff that we're hearing is this. All right, so we're going from our C to D flat, back to C, up to an A flat. Now, that is all happening with a bass line that's running, which is basically an F or a G flat, up to A flat, up to B flat, back to F, and then it repeats. So we're hearing this melody, this section on top of the G flat, which sort of makes sense because the D flat is in that harmony. And this note basically makes it a suspended second or a major ninth, if we want to get really specific about it. So the notes we're using are D flat or C, D flat, C, A flat, D flat, C, 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 D flat, down to A flat. All right. And that basically repeats the second time, although we get a different ending. So it's the same exact melody the second time, only at the very end of that second measure, the second time, or the fourth measure of this full 4-measure sequence. We are doing a different ending, so we still go to A flat, but we come back to the B flat. Again, all of these notes are in the key that I showed you, D flat major, which again is the same thing as B flat minor or G flat Lydian. Sorry for all the complicated modal terms, but for those of you that have thought some of the other breakdowns are too simple, this gives us a chance to talk about modes again. So that's basically the main section of the song. Once, like I said, we have the bass line that's happening on what sounds like a filtered piano sound. Sound design wise, I'm using a stack of a piano and then like 2 isotope patches. I am adding, one of the big things about this song is we have a 16th note delay. What that does is it creates the sound of a harmony when that note echoes back. And in addition, the delay is filtered, so that's really important. I'm using H delay by Waves, and I'm filtering said delay. So let's watch this one riff again. Now I'll add that bass note. Cool. So again, I would really define this section as G flat Lydian, but because there's not a lot of stuff going on in the song, it really leaves it open to interpretation. And this is an example of like if you wanted to write something that has kind of a modal feel, you don't have to have as much going on in the music. You could really write an interesting riff with that and a bass line, and that's going to get you really far. So we're at 170 beats per minute. We have a standard backbeat. I mentioned in the beginning, this evokes similar vibes for me as The Weeknd, like Blinding Lights. That song is at like 173 beats per minute, so super similar. Standard backbeat. It's going kick, snare, kick, snare, kick, snare, kick, snare on the quarter note. And then at the end of the 4, we get 2 eighth notes of kick at the very happening. So together that looks like this. All right. Then halfway through that first verse, we get an added layer, which is literally just doing the same exact progression. It's going a little bit early to our bass notes every other time, an eighth note earlier, but it's the same exact notes that we saw in this low piano in the beginning. Cool. Moving along to the hook section. The hook section of the song is the same musically as we've had before, only we get the chord progression filled out on the downbeats. So again, that chord progression is going our F sharp major chord, or I mean G flat major. Gotta call these the right notes. Same pitch, but we're gonna call this G flat major. Then we get an A flat major. Then we get a B flat minor. Then we get an F minor chord. So a minor 5. All of these chords together are why I'm calling it G Lydian, G flat Lydian. We start on this note, and then the last chord that we have is a dominant of G Lydian, so it sends us back to our home key. Cool. So let's hear that section. Cool. So that covers really everything. One thing I didn't talk about was our drum fill. It's like 3/8 notes into the hook. Also very sort of drum machine sounding, very 80s. Yeah, it's a really popular sound right now, that like retro vibe. It's almost like synthwave. Moving along to what would be Justin Bieber's verse, this is where we get some different stuff happening. In the bass, the bass line changes here. And it's really kind of cool that when we get a new singer in the song, it was the kid LAROI, and now it's Bieber, the music changes. Everything else is happening exactly the same. The thing that changes is the bass line, and that goes a long way to make the music feel different. So let's talk about the bass. The bass in the original song is doing the same exact bass line. It hits every other note an eighth note early, just like that other instrument I just showed you. Rhythmically, it's got some cool syncopation to it. I'll play just the bass on its own. With the drums. Cool, so everything is the same over the Bieber section, except the bass changes. The notes. So we get the same rhythm that was happening in the first measure, the first eighth note, and then the fourth eighth note, third quarter note. That happens on every chord. Instead of doing G flat, A flat, B flat, F, we've changed the rotation of the chords. We're starting on B flat. We go to F, we come to G flat, and then we go to A flat. This one change of the instrumental, again, this is the only real thing that's changing besides the drums. And this really makes it feel like we're in B flat minor. So when I first showed you the scales in the beginning, I showed you the first one was D flat major, second one was B flat minor. So in this section, I'm going to say that we have basically moved the harmonic center to feel like it's a B flat minor right here. Let's hear all of that together. With everything else. So really subtle change. We go into a hook. This hook section is basically like half the first time we hear it. Then we go to our breakdown. Now our breakdown has the same chord progression we've been having the whole time, or in the beginning that I showed you. The real difference is sound design wise. This goes to a huge synth. Our drums stop for the second. The drum pattern has changed here. I had those kicks slightly out. The drums are hitting on the first a whole note, and then 2 half notes, then a whole note, then the final half note. Sounds like this all together. Our bass line is doubling up those root notes. It's also in line with the kick drum. We get a slight bass fill at the very end. All together, it looks like this. Then we're back to the main hook. So again, the main thing to take away from the song is, one, we don't need a lot going on. A really great melody or great riff goes a really long way. I love the melody in this song, and especially love the sound design, like the ambient nature with that delay. Super cool. So you don't need to have a ton of stuff. This modal area of music theory seems really confusing, mainly because the terms all come from Greek as opposed to Italian, which most of our music words come from, like arpeggio. So once again, major is called Ionian in the modes. Minor is called Aeolian. It's built on the 6th scale degree. If we build a scale on the 4th scale degree, we call that Lydian. I'm going to go ahead and say most of this song is in G flat Lydian. Hopefully you found this helpful. I love talking about music theory, and this song is one of my current favorites that's on the top of the charts. Hopefully you enjoyed this, and if you did, you'd help me out a ton by subscribing to the channel. Hit that bell for notifications so you find out when I make a new video. Have a wonderful day and be kind to your fellow human being. I will see you next time. Cheers.